This is going to be a wave, and as it comes, there's not going to be enough of you guys to build them. And I think he's probably spot on.
My name's Andy Marlowe. I'm an architect and a certified passive house designer, and our firm Envirotecture are the designers of this lovely project here in the Southern Highlands. This is the first certified passive house in the Southern Highlands. It's a granny flat, it's on a large rural property, and it's an adjunct to the main family home, and it's got some interesting origins in terms of how it came to be, which will relate back to the bushfires of 2019. We were contacted by the clients not long after the bushfires. They had been evacuated twice over that summer, and it's a large property, animals, all the usual things that you would find, and they realised that they needed to improve the resilience of the entire property, and this building began, or was the beginnings of that journey. The other aspect that relates to bushfires is living in the place when the bushfires are in the area, yet not an immediate threat. And as everyone discovered back in the big bushfires a few years ago, indoor air quality was a real problem, and closing the windows was not a solution. One of the reasons in recent years we've been advocating so strongly for the passive house standard is that it is a building standard that will see buildings through a climate crisis. It will see that in massive heat waves, these buildings are more resilient.
My name's Jarrod Olsen, and from Jarrod, Olson & Co. We're a building company here in the Southern Highlands. We came to building passive houses, I guess, as a result of building our own house. We're about to start building in the Southern Highlands, and my wife, who's from Europe, suggested that we build a passive house, and I thought, sure, let's do that, I can build. She said, great, you're off to Melbourne to do a course. So off I went to Melbourne, did the passive house course, came home and pretty much said stop to the guys in our crew that were already starting to build on our place, and we thought, because I realised then that there's a better way to building. So that was the start of it all, and since then we sort of haven't looked back.
So a certified passive house has a few key requirements. It needs to use less than a certain amount of energy per year to stay warm and cool, which means an appropriate amount of insulation, appropriate glazing with appropriate shading. It needs to be airtight, so there's a blower door test that measures that at the end of the project, and you have to have a ventilation system in order to provide fresh air, or filtered air as we call it, so that people who have hay fever, etc. have a much better experience because it pulls all the pollen out. One of the key things though really is the airtightness is the key to delivering all of the quality. So as soon as it's airtight, you can control things. If it's not airtight, you can't control things, and therefore airtight building is fairly mandatory if you want to have a high performance home of any sort.
So during the construction of the passive house, we have to do what's called a blower door test to test the air tightness to make sure that we've built in accordance with the passive house standard. So what we do is we take out a door, say the front door, or we open it, we put a blower door testing unit in there, which is a fan which will pressurise the house with 50 pascals of pressure. And then we measure it. So we've got a little touchscreen electronic device that will tell us what sort of leakage you have. With the passive house requirement, for a certified passive house, you need to be under 0.6 of an air exchange. This particular house came in at 0.3 or 2.8. There was a little bit of debate there.
By comparison, the average new Australian home is 15.4 air changes per hour. So therefore, this house is approximately 46 times more airtight than an average Australian home. This relates to energy costs. It mostly relates to health and comfort. You can't be healthy and comfortable in a building that leaks like a sieve.
So an important part of the passive house is the HRV system, heat recovery ventilation system. So it's been installed in the laundry in this particular project. The HRV system has filters in it. This particular one has an add-on, which is during bushfires we can put a HEPA carbon filter, I think it is, in this system, which will knock out a vast majority of smoke and ash and things like that you get in a bushfire. I can say ourselves from personal experience during those bushfires, and we were checking those filters daily, and I've see the photos of the gunk they were sort of trapping before it came into that living area was quite amazing, and it made you think, wow, you know, I wished everybody had one of these working in their house right now, because everybody was choking.
One of the things that we see in the cooler climates of Australia is, at the moment, there is a tendency, for example, to do double glazing, not triple glazing, which is what's needed in those climates. And what it triggers is this thing called a lock-in effect. So someone building a brand new house today with double glazing is spending a lot of money on some windows that, put simply, aren't really adequate. And what they've done by doing that is invest money in carbon and resources and materials, but also they've effectively prevented anyone fixing that for the next 30 years, because no one's going to throw away perfectly good double glazed windows. So this lock-in effect is really significant and is actually one of the things we really as a nation need to grapple with. And it's the argument for doing things properly now and not just doing half-baked solutions. We often get asked about the cost of building a certified passive house. We've done a few now that have been completed. When we finished our first one about 4 years ago, we actually had a lot of cost data. Obviously it was back from that period of time, so there's been inflation. But what it really showed was that with some smart choices along the way, you could build a certified passive house for about the same cost as you could build a new custom design, custom built home. So that document's on the Envirotecture website. It's called What's It Worth? And if you're interested, you should check that out. In the scheme of building houses and the money that's involved, to us, it seems kind of crazy that you wouldn't have some part of verification. You get cranky when your iPhone doesn't do what it wants to do. This is a much more expensive exercise. We think the quality assurance is the make or break. Delivering certified passive house is the way to be able to literally put a label on it, plaque on the door and go, this is quality. For us, that's incredibly important.
This is what we all strive for when we're building passive house. This one's been ticked off, certified, verified, that it's been done in accordance with the passive house requirements. So very proud of this. It's great to be a part of it.